Well, I'm back. It feels like summer here in Tennessee. It's actually 60 degrees today. Today is February 3rd. What I'm getting into today is, if you guys remember that video I made back in July or so, I had said turn 6 hives into 75 in 1 year. Well, unintentionally, that title was misleading because my last batch of splits that I had made at the end of that video, I explained this in my next video then, but I had bad mating. And I really only had 60 when that was all said and done. And then, the course of the next 2 months, I lost another 10. So then I was down to 50. And then when winter was coming, I was feeding up and I had quite a few really tiny ones. So I just combined them together. And then I was down to like 40. And I was feeling almighty discouraged. And that's probably why I didn't post any videos. So anyway, had all these high hopes and unrealistic expectations probably. We're going to get into my hives today since it's nice. Just make sure that I'm not starving any. See how many I have left. I don't have any cows in here right now, but I don't know if you can see that cow over there in the background. It's not my cow, it's a neighbor's cow. And she got in here and she was down here by the bees. And so my brother-in-law was like, hey, there's a cow down by your bees. So I came up here and checked and I didn't see anything wrong. I didn't actually look at it. I just drove up here on the road and looked and she wasn't there and nothing looked ruined. But she had actually knocked off a lid from one of the hives, got below 0 temperatures. Those bees are dead, so I know I lost at least 2. At this point, I'll be happy if I get through the winter with 30. And I guess even turning 6 into 30 is not bad. It's just, I had these videos saying 6 into 75. Anyway, let's see what we got here. Also, I went to Cayman Reynolds Hive Life conference. There's nothing like a good conference to get you hyped up and get you motivated again to keep bees. So it looks like this is a double stacked one. This is just another box. I've got another lid down there. Well, there's bees up here. I'm assuming this was a full frame of honey. Maybe I should use my smoker. A little bit of nectar in that one. There's some weight to this one. Got capped honey yet. And what's not capped is still completely full. And this side is this is 90% full. This one's 40%. Well, so far, if they all look like this, it is great because there's a lot of bees in this one. This is full of honey. Full of honey. I'm just gonna check for the queen in this one. Gotta get my queen eyes back. For me, it helps me find queens if I just glance over the whole thing first. That's usually when I see it, is when I just glance at it. If I'm just intently looking, I usually miss her. This whole section here has got eggs. Oh, here she is. Right there. You know what the cool thing is? I know this is not anything great, but I grafted her. Made that queen from scratch. Well, the bees made her, but you know. Not near as many bees in this one. I think that's still a healthy cluster for a nuke. Full frame of feed. That outside one is empty. Another heavy frame. Well, there are some dead, starved bees in a cluster right here. I don't know if you can see that. It's probably when we had that real cold spell. I don't know why, but why they would have starved. There's there's probably 15, 20 of them there. See if we can find the queen again. There she is, right there. Another queen made by yours truly. Get out of me. I know those aren't huge clusters, at least that one little one isn't, but one thing I'm hoping is in my favor is my wife's uncle Mark Gunther. Some of you may have met him at the Cayman Reynolds Bee Conference, but he buys a bunch of queens from Bob Binney, and I cannot remember what kind those are. They're dark. I don't know if they're Caucasian or Carnies maybe. I don't know, but I know Bob was talking about them, and they do overwinter with smaller clusters, much smaller, like maybe a quarter of the size of Italians. And I know a lot of these look like Italian queens, but I'm sure they were mating with Mark's queens, and he's got 100 hives or so. And so I'm sure these have a lot of those genetics. That's what I'm hoping, that they'll overwinter with smaller colonies, and then in the spring they'll still just boom, take off, and still have big clusters in the spring. Well, I'm gonna run through the rest of these off camera, and then I'll come back to you and tell you how many big ones, how many small ones, and see what we got. Well, I've got exactly 30 of them alive, and 1 or 2 of those are actually pretty small. So I had 6 dead outs, regular dead outs, and each one of these are doubles, and the cow had actually knocked over 3 of them. Just kind of knocked them. It had to have been the cow. I don't know what else, because these are glued together like you wouldn't believe. And they were just knocked sideways, knocked over. And some of those were some really big ones, and they were all dead of those 6. So that's 12 dead outs that I have. Thankfully, the cow didn't destroy any equipment. Nothing was busted. I don't know if she was just scratching her head, just knocked them over. Oh yeah, and then the lid was knocked off of another one. The one that I had seen, actually one of those was still alive with this. So when the lid is knocked off, they've still got that other lid underneath, but they had the feeding holes in it, and that feeding hole was open probably to all this, negative -5 Fahrenheit temperatures that we had, and it was still alive. It's not a huge colony, but anyway, so there's 12 dead outs in total, and so I'm at 30 right now. Winter's not over, so I highly doubt I'll be coming through winter with 30. But for the most part, the majority of them were on the bigger side. There was maybe 2 that were smaller than that small one that we looked at. But most of them they're pretty big. Even if they're in singles, they're pretty big. So some of those, the ones that are standing up, there's only one hive. One side is dead, so that side is alive. There's another one. Those dead out, some of them were pretty well robbed out, and some of them were hardly robbed out. So the ones that were dead outs, they still had clusters of bees. They like they were starved, their butts sticking out and stuff, but they were only like as big as my hand. I think they were just too small, and when we had that really cold weather, they weren't big enough to be bringing in the honey from the outside or something. Some of them were right on honey and just had a big dead spot in the middle of the honey, and they didn't move over. So I'm down 50% since I made all these splits. You know, I made 75, then 60 of them were successful, and now I'm down to 30. But I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I know I had super high hopes last summer, but I'm still motivated. And this weather and working in these bees, it makes it feel like spring is here. And it is just around the corner. Our last frost date is middle of April. That's just a little over 2 months away. And we know bees will be working wildflowers before then, so I'm gonna do whatever it takes, and I plan on making a business out of this yet. Most of these hives still had, I'd say 75% of their honey in them, and I guess I'll be back in probably about 1st of March and check them again and make sure if they need feed or not. Anyway, I'm gonna get off here. I'm gonna go fix some fence. It's the property line fence over there behind that pond, and it's probably grounded out. It's a hot fence, and get this cow out of here. And if any of you guys want to follow along with anything else I'm doing, I've got another channel where I'm doing my homestead stuff, and I try to put a video on there once a week. So if you guys want to follow along, I'll leave a link for that just in the description. Thanks for watching.